Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I don't know how to use this at all.
That's okay. Your camera view has a big black like mark over it. I don't know. Does
Huh.
it have a slider?
Let me see.
Sometimes they have like is it like a Windows computer?
Yeah. I
Some
think I think it's a Mac. No, it's a Lenovo.
Sometimes they have like an internal slider if there's like a little button on the top. I wonder if it's like slid over the camera a little bit.
That work?
There you go.
Oh, look at that. And I work with technology every day, like crazy. So it's nice to finally meet you.
Oh,
Face to face. I know we've been on TikTok, but it's different, so
yeah. So good. Are you
exciting.
ready? I haven't even pulled up the document yet. I want you to talk freely. I am not a professional interviewer.
Okay.
So I will guide you if you get like paused or stopped and I'll be like, "Oh, so okay, so let's talk about this." I don't want you to feel like it's your story. You know it better than anyone. So,
Yeah, and
uh,
feel free. I ramble, so like feel free to interrupt me and interject and
that's
ask
fine.
questions. Like I'm an open book, Nikki. Like there's nothing that you can ask me that's going to offend me or upset me. So,
No worries. Um, okay, let me find what I am so disorganized on my computer. It's the worst.
I have three
Okay.
screens at work, so I'm not used to this right now, just one.
Oh my gosh, I need that. I
It's
really
so
do.
much more efficient. I
Mm,
think that's good.
Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay. Let me squish that so
You can hear me fine?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. I was out having
Okay.
crab legs with Julie, and I said, Jim,
Ooh.
I need your microphone. He's like, I don't know where it's at right now. Let me get my laptop. So he's always there when I need him. So it's good.
Let me make sure. It says it's recording on, does it say it's recording on your end? Mine
Yes.
says yes. So, all right. Just wanted to make sure. I had an issue the other day and I fixed my settings, but if for some reason it wasn't saving the video version, it was only saving like actually it wasn't saving sound or video. It was only
Oh,
saving the script. And I was like, oh, no, no, I need the video. So luckily the person I was talking to had it recording on their end and I
hmm.
got the whole video. So my cat might come in and knock off with the light and my dogs might bark. So I'll probably mute myself quite a bit
It's
just
okay.
so that you can talk without interruption.
That's fine. I have a cat. I get it.
So, all right. So, I mean, I'm not going to do, like I said, like a traditional like interview, like a podcast would do. I just want you to kind of introduce yourself and then
Okay.
you can go into why you want to tell your story, whatever, however you want to flow with it. If you want me to kind of ask you, like before we begin, is there anything I can do to make this conversation feel uncomfortable? I feel like you're ready, right? Like you're
No,
like,
yeah. No,
you have
you've made
water.
it comfortable since day one. So,
Okay.
um, but if there's anything you want to say, we're in the beginning, go for it. But first, tell me about, you told me last night you were going to tell me how you met JB. Tell me that story
Oh,
first.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, no, the first time we contacted each other, so my friend Amanda, I don't know if you know Hope for Cleo Animal Rescue.
Mm-mm.
She has what group is that on there? They call There goes my dogs already. Um I feel like you know the group on Facebook. But anyway, so Amanda has an animal rescue. Anyway, so she got in touch with JB somehow. She was able to contact him and get his phone number.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm gonna call him. So I literally FaceTimed him. He answers the phone out of breath, and there's like loud stuff in the back, and he's like, "Oh my God. Oh my God." And I was like, "Hi." And he finally got to like a quiet spot. He's like, I'm literally at a concert right now, but I cannot believe Gabby's mom is calling me.
Oh my God.
He freaked out. Um, and I just wanted to call him to thank him because he was
Yeah,
reporting so well the whole time that I was the one I watched. I had that playing on my computer 24/7.
me too.
He
Yeah.
was the one. So
Mhm.
then I got to come down to Florida and meet him in person. I don't know if you ever seen that picture of us kind of like having lunch together and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So he's just a genuine guy. Just really, really nice.
No, like
I
he does
haven't
a
met
good
his wife
job.
yet, but
No, okay. I'm sure you will.
I'm gonna meet. Well, I told him, he said, come meet the baby. And I said, when all the snowbirds leave and all oh, let me turn that off.
Yeah.
All the sickness is gone. I said, then I'll come meet the baby. So he's like
Yeah.
spoken like a true mother.
No, he's gonna be what, a year now? No, a year?
Yeah, yeah. He's
Jeez.
huge. Um, but yeah, no, he's a nice guy. I love our media people. We really connected with a lot of them. Brian Enton, he's
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah, I think you guys got lucky on the media front with them because they didn't give out false stuff. So I think you guys got the best that you could have. I love those two. Like I said, I watched Nate Eaton. I was watching him earlier.
Oh my
So
gosh,
they're
Nate,
just
he's
all
great.
great.
His wife is a gem. Like the two of
Hmm.
them are the cutest people on the earth. I got to meet, like, they're just adorable people. I don't put them in my
No, you can
pocket.
tell. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
really. I could tell he's a nice guy. So I'm looking forward to. I know on his video the other night, he said he was going to CrimeCon. I don't know if he's going as a guest or just a speaker, but he said he'll be there. So I
He
know he'll be running around.
yeah, he's always there. He runs around and interviews everyone. Yeah, he's always there. So he's great. I'm hoping that Lori Vallow's sister goes again because after everything that's been going on, I'm sure she's struggling, but
Yeah,
they really are the nicest family.
they
It's so
seem.
crazy.
I know they all seem. I mean, Colby and the Woodcocks, and I hope one of
Hmm.
them go. I would like to hear them speak. If or just be a guest and meet them, but. All right. Let's let's do
Mm,
this. All right. I did type things out in my phone, so I was thinking of things last night and I there was things I couldn't remember because
that's
trauma
fine.
blocking. And I was like, holy shit, I've not thought about that in 15 years. So some of it might be a gray area. And it's not that I won't want to talk about it, it's just I don't remember. And
Okay,
that's
I get
part
it.
of the, you know how it is.
But
So
I'd love for you to talk about who you were. Do you feel like you were different after the trauma? Like who were you before the trauma? So can you talk about like your hopes and dreams, like when you were growing up and like kind of what you wanted to
yeah.
be and do, and then we'll talk about what happened. So I'll
Okay.
let you just go. I'll
All
mute
right.
myself.
All right. I'm Tiffany. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I left my first domestic violence relationship in 2018, and I currently am surviving another one I left in October 2024. Different types of abuse. So it's important that people know both of them. Um, who I was before the abuse, I was Tiffany, but I was 19, turning 20. I wanted to be a lot of things. I wanted to be a mortician. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a radio DJ. I had all these aspirations of things I just wanted to do, and I couldn't settle on one thing, but I knew I always wanted to help people my whole life. My mom was a Girl Scout leader, and my mom always had a soft spot for helping kids and those that are, in need. And my mom was also a domestic violence survivor, 15 years. She left when I was 9. So I got a great stepfather, bonus dad, and he made my life so much better. And I'm thankful every day for him. His name's Ralph. He's been watching the documentaries and educating himself. But I remember growing up being like, I'll never let that happen to me. That won't happen to me. Like that mentality of that can't happen. I won't let it. It does. And I don't know if it was repeating things that were familiar or if it was just I landed in that type of situation. So I was very outgoing, chip on my shoulder. I was to take over the world. Nothing would get in my way. Ambitious. Went to college in Kentucky for a little bit and then met my ex on Facebook. It was an app kind of like Tinder back in 2009. It was called Are You Interested? And you would literally swipe. It literally was Tinder on Facebook. Nobody really remembers it. And I saw he was from where my grandfather was born and raised in Dunmore, Pennsylvania. So he was living somewhere around there. And I was like, oh, that's a small world. So I swiped yes, not really thinking. And then we got to talking and chatting. And about 2 months later, I drove from Ohio to Pennsylvania with my friend and met him and met his parents for three or 4 days. I went back out to Ohio. He came out 2 weeks later, and I moved back with him in May. So I met him online in March, met him in person in April, and then moved to Pennsylvania with him in May. So it was very quick. I did see him as a ticket out of a small town. I lived in a very rural area in Ohio. Like the nearest mall was like an hour and a half away. I liked him for who he was at the time, and he was showing me the world that I wanted so badly, and I knew I wasn't going to get it where I was living. So I was a little naive, thinking someone can promise you the world and deliver a nightmare. Um, so I got in a fight with my mom and left. Kind of, I woke up one morning and was like, "Oh, I'm moving to Pennsylvania today," and packed what I could, got in his car, and I left. I gave my parents no time to process it. I didn't process it, and I wish looking back, I would have stopped and thought, wow, this is going to change your entire life from this point on. But when you're 19, 20 years old, you see an opportunity and you take it.
Yeah, you're invincible.
Yes. And knowing that my mom had went through stuff and watched what she overcame, you think I would have knew the signs, but I didn't because she had removed me out of that when I was 8. So I really didn't see things in an abusive way that she would have. She met him. She didn't have anything against him when she met him. She didn't see any red signs at the time. But as time went on, she started seeing my biological father traits come out of him. And she would try to warn me, and I'd be like, whatever. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, whatever. Like, I always give people the benefit of the doubt because that's what I always do. And I've learned from that. So I was very naive, very young, very immature. Um, was just hopeful. I wanted a relationship. I was my second or third year in college, and I just wanted to change my entire life. I've always been independent. Like you asked me like who I was before. I was always an independent person, and I was always doing things out of spite to prove people wrong. So a part of me leaving was, throwing my fingers up and being like, I'm going to do what I want to do. No one's going to stop me. And I wish not that like my mom was very strict because of her upbringing, and she did the best she could to keep me from getting pregnant, getting into drugs. She did a great job. And I always complained how strict she was. And sometimes I'm like, I wish you were a little less strict. But then other times I'm like, I wish she would have been more protective because she, I was, and I know it's watched the Gabby stuff. I was an adult. She couldn't really stop me from going. And she didn't like the fact that I did, but she had no choice and I left. My grandma and my dad kind of supported it, but they were like, you always have a home to come home to. And my mom always said that. It was not like, oh, if you leave, you can't come back. My parents begged me to come back, and I just wouldn't. So it wasn't until so I got there in May. It wasn't until about fall of that year. So October, maybe November of 2018 was when the abuse started. And when I started seeing the signs, so that's only May, June, July, that's only 5 or 6 months in. He completely hit it. He was fun, outgoing, charming, you know, everybody liked him, life of the party, schmoozer. And I saw a side that nobody else saw. So that had started that fall. And I remember the first, like, there was no sign leading up to it. It wasn't like, oh, there's something not right here. It just happened out of nowhere. And I was watching a movie, and I remember all of a sudden I had a mirror thrown at me. I don't remember if it was on me or at me, but the glass was everywhere. I don't remember why, and it doesn't really matter why, but I don't know what started it. I don't know if he was pissed, if I said something, but I've blocked so much out that I don't remember. So again, I was 20. I had no friends here, no support system, no job, no car, no friends. I was by myself 100%. So he was my only source of, socialization. I did work, but I would take the bus downtown. Um, I just had nobody. And his parents knew what was going on, and they just looked the other way too, because it was easier for them because they dealt with him as a kid and how he was. He was actually in a boys' home for a while because he was just so out of control. So they knew how he was, but they just looked the other way because they didn't want to deal with it. So that was really eye-opening of they see it, they hear it, they just look the other way. Um,
At
he,
this point, did you feel so all of a sudden these crazy things are happening? Did you feel like, oh shit, I'm stuck? Were you recognizing it or were you kind of like confused? I'm
um,
just trying to get your frame of mind. It's hard to
you know,
pinpoint, but yeah.
15 years later, because obviously a lot's happened. I remember sitting there being like, oh my God, like what the hell just happened? Like it was like 0 to 60 in a second and not knowing what to do. Should I call home? Should I just go home? What's gonna, like, what happened? I'm scared. Really, I mean, that's all I do remember. And I did call my dad. And I was crying and I remember telling him that Randy threw something. I'm gonna cut his name out, that he threw something. And then, I heard my mom in the background yelling, like, I told you he was gonna do this, blah, blah, blah. And, like, mother knows best. And then after a few hours later, I called them and reassured them that it was okay and that, not that, he threw the mirror, it wasn't at me. The glass just was around me. I made up this lie that he was just mad and threw something. He didn't actually hit me with it. He did. And that's all I remember about that first incident. But then I do remember the remorse the next day of making me breakfast, getting me flowers. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I'm a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. And that was the start of the first time I ever got in a cycle like that. So I thought he was being sincere because no one's ever treated me that way. So I was like, oh, he realizes what he did wrong. It won't happen anymore. And it kept happening. And it happened for 9 years. The stories I have, and I'm not afraid to go into detail, but it it's just how I survived that. And close to the end, I almost did not. So um, either he wouldn't have survived or I wouldn't have. And that's all I'm gonna say. And I wasn't even living with him at that point. It was still that bad. But the years just I don't know how I'm here, working, having a career, having fun, like getting I don't know how I've survived it, but I always knew I was resilient. And I hate to say that, yes, your mom is always right.
Mhm.
If I listened to her because she had lived it, I would have probably made different choices, but I also wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't make those choices. I don't regret anything. I mean, if I could do it all over again, maybe I would have do it in a different way. Maybe I would have slowed down and got to know somebody before I just moved to a different state. Um, but I was impulsive. So there's just things I can't do now, but I could explain to other people.
And it's still not your fault.
No, mm-mm.
So
No, I
it was
never
his
knew.
fault. He did
I
it.
never thought that it was. I never once
Mhm.
said like I deserve this or I did something wrong. It
Yeah.
was just I don't know how to get out. I think it just happens so much that it just chips away at you. And you're so afraid to tell somebody because you don't want to leave because you want to fix them. You don't want to leave them alone because they need love and they need you to make their life better. So you feel like you're abandoning them. And that's the trauma bond. And I think that's a big reason why I never left is because I felt so bad for him that I was like, well, someone has to take care of this person. Someone has to love them and show them that they're worth something. And then in that cycle, it destroyed me. And I lost my worth and my self-respect. No matter what I did, it wasn't enough. He would just wake up with, you could just tell him the color of his eyes that day, what kind of day it was going to be. They would literally change, and I would just know what I was in for. So it was a very long, long night, long decade.
Was there a pivotal moment that you were like the light bulb moment where you're like, I need to get out of here. I'm not gonna make it out alive.
Yeah. I will say there was many times where I was dragged across the house by my hair. I've had my clothes cut. I've had been chased by a knife. I've had my windshield smashed, my tires smashed. I told you all of this. Um, just so much. Black eyes, dislocated shoulders, and you think all of that would have said, get out because you're probably not going to make it. But the more it went on, it just got to a point where I was so tired of fighting it and I had nothing. I had nothing for myself. And I'm like, why even bother? Where am I going to go? I can't go home. If my parents know this, they're literally going, this guy's not going to have, like, I don't know what I can and cannot say. So if I tell my parents this is not going to be a good outcome for him, like and I was afraid of what he was going to do in return if someone knew what he did to me.
Mhm.
He was he grew up like that, but his parents swear that there was no abuse in the home. He was just the type of person he was. And every time he did it, it was a remorse story the next day. It was, I'm sorry. And you start to feel bad because they're your only person you have in their life that so you just want to make sure they're okay. When the moment that I thought to get out, that was it. There was a point in 2000, I want to say 16 or 2017. Um, there was a point I was sitting at home and I literally just packed my car in the middle of the night and I was either going to drive to a mental hospital or I was going to drive to my mom's in Ohio. I went home. And then he manipulated me again to come back to PA a month later. And he drove out. So I think my car got rear-ended or something. So he came out and got me and brought me back. And I didn't talk to my mom for a long time for that. I think my mom knew what was going on, even, I mean, she's been through it, but what could she do? I was an adult. So it wasn't, you're not going anywhere. She tried, and I was a young adult and I had a mouth on me and it didn't listen. And I wish I did. Um, but in the moment, you don't think of that. I was ashamed to be back where I was living because I thought I failed. And then it was a shame to go back because I thought I failed in a relationship. So I just felt like I had nothing. I don't even know how to explain it. But there was a time I thought I'm either gonna take my own life or he's gonna take mine. And I had to make a decision and I just went to my mom's. But again, I ended up back and we know that it takes 7, 8, 10 times before you actually leave. There was a lot of times I would pack my car and drive halfway across the state of Pennsylvania and then turn around and go back. Um, Times I've gone out to Ohio for a few months and then I went back and it was, I wish I would have stayed home the first time. Um, because I wouldn't have ended up where I'm at today. But then again, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I try to find the good of what I've learned from it. Like I've said, going back to the details, the things that have happened to me, like I've had my keys, like he would sit in my car and interrogate me for like 12 hours. And until he felt satisfied, I wasn't getting out of that car. I would lose jobs. I would go to work with no sleep. He almost ruined my graduation. He ruined every holiday. Um, Everything was just so bad and ruined birthdays. Nothing could be good. It always had to be about him and how he felt. And because he had nothing for himself, he had to make everybody else that was achieving something. Um, he had to play it down. Like when I started my own business, Client's Corner, he just constantly he tried taking over because he saw it was starting to pick up. So he wanted control of that. So he could have the credit. And restaurants wouldn't hire me because they knew he was vegan and he would go on their page after I would take photos and then like leave rotten reviews calling them all these names. Like I couldn't have my own identity because he had to be it. So when I left him, my business boomed and like it was like haha, I did it. I didn't need you. And like look what I'm doing. And I didn't do it for him. I did it for me because that was my baby. And then now that I do the Client's Corner and I'm trying to do the domestic awareness and stuff here in Northeast PA, it's almost like that same, like I'm going to do something. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to make it better. I've done it before. I can do it again. But now this time I don't have anybody in my ear telling me I can't do it. I have myself telling me that I can. And I know I will. It's just a matter of the time. But I think with all of this, I was telling my friend Jim, I couldn't do this or talk to you or talk to my friends who go through it if I didn't live through it. I don't feel like it's something that you could help somebody else with unless you know about it, you're educated about it, or you've lived through it. If you don't know anything about it, you just can't fathom the things.
Did you
I've
have any incidents where you called law enforcement? And how was your experiences with law enforcement in Pennsylvania?
I've called a few times by myself. Right after once I called, he smashed my phone. They came and they couldn't do anything because we both of our names were on the lease. And they're like, we can't evict him, but you can leave. He just hit me. Clearly have a black eye. Well, you could press charges. Let me do that because I'm fear for my life right now. Can you please remove him from this house? No, he's on the lease. So I don't know if that's a national thing or a Pennsylvania thing, but at the time they couldn't make him leave his own residence. But I had the free will to, yeah, because it's just again, it's the ignorance of let me just leave. It's that easy. Um, and I didn't want to deal with going through court and pressing charges and then him getting out of jail and then God, what's he going to do now? Because now he's going to be really angry. So it was just them coming, doing their job, doing their paperwork. giving me a pamphlet of saying, here's a resource center. Good luck. Really, I mean, that's all it was. And that happened every time I called, and he was very charming, laughing with the cops. They would they would almost, it's not that I don't think they didn't believe me because clearly they would see me sweating from just adrenaline and I'd be soaked, or red marks or bruises. It was more of just, we really don't want to get involved and we don't know how to get involved and really don't know what to do except tell you to go to a woman's shelter. It's like because they weren't educated and they weren't experienced. So I don't want to blame them, but as a law enforcement person, they should have taken it upon themselves to want to do more if they really want to help people. So I felt like they were just doing their job. And clocked in and clocked out. That's all. And then,
Yeah.
sometimes my neighbors would call because they'd hear me screaming and crying and things breaking and same thing. They'd come out and it'd be, a different cop this time. Same story, same pamphlet, good luck. And it just seemed to be the same. And then it got to a point like, why bother with them? Because they can only do so much. And every time I'm told that I can leave, well, you can go. Yeah, I don't have anywhere to go or many money or
Yeah.
I'll just leave. Where do you want me to go? You know, but he could stay. There was no Randy like you got to leave and again cut his name out. You got to leave and go to your parents or go somewhere because like I had nobody here and I would tell them that. So it was just like
Yeah.
like my voice was never heard. I don't know how else to explain that. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I get it now that I'm out of it and I'm older and I've educated myself more. I understand why they do what they do like that, but it's just frustrating because had they had arrested him or made him leave, maybe I would have had a night to think clearly and just go home without him even being around and I could have just left. But he was there and I couldn't get away if he was there. Um,
On that note, looking back, was there someone or if there's something that someone in your life, or even if the police had responded, that they could have said to you or done at the time to convince you that you needed to get out of there?
mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, every coworker I had, it, you get good at lying.
Yeah.
You get really good at lying, and you watch people and you see what they believe and what they don't believe, and you use that. My coworkers would joke. I would come in like with a bruise on my arm, and they'd be like, "Oh, what did he do? Hit you?" Like joking. I'd be like, "No," like I would make up an excuse, but down deep inside,
Yeah.
like, "No, he really did." But they knew him who the show that he put on, so they were laughing because they didn't think he would actually do that, and I was too afraid to say, "No, he actually did." So
Yeah.
I don't know if people caught on and they didn't want to get involved or if they really just didn't put two and two together. Because I was really good at making up lies and, I did lose a lot of jobs because I couldn't function or he would start a fight before work. I still made it through college working full time and made it through with honors. I don't know how, but it was one of those things where it was like, he's not going to take this away from me. But nobody at school, no, the little friends that I did have, nobody said anything. No, and back then, 2009 to
Mhm.
2016, I mean, we had social media, but it's not like today. Like I didn't have all these Facebook groups and support groups and
Yeah.
people on TikTok and YouTube, and I didn't know. Like I knew people went through this, but I didn't know if they went through the same thing I did. So when I saw Gabby's story, I was like going down the list and I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of similarities here. And I'm like, if I had something like Gabby's story back then, I think I would have left the first time. But because it wasn't talked about, it wasn't broadcasted, it wasn't in your face all the time, um, people were so afraid that you're afraid. So, well, if people aren't talking about it, like I can't bring this up because it's back that old era of brush it under the rug from that generation where you don't talk about your dirty laundry, outside of the home. And that's how it was even in 2009. And a lot of people are like, well, it wasn't that long ago, but social media has evolved a lot since then. Um, I just hit it and no, not one person asked me, even my
Yeah.
family, not once, are you okay? Are you in danger? Because I don't think they knew me enough to know that I don't take shit from people and I don't lie. So I don't
Mhm.
think there was ever a red flag for them to think she's not okay until the end when my mom found out what he did. Then she knew he hit me once, and it was at the end when I actually left him. but I don't think I never like this is the first I'm talking about all of this. She doesn't know what he's done to me, except that like I confronted him on cheating on me before like the last time before I moved out, and he punched me right in the face. And I lied to my friend and I said that I got in a car accident and I had to go get x-rays on my nose. My nose was so bad. And my mom knew because his mom told her I was having gallbladder surgery, and my mom flew in for that because it was like an emergency surgery. And somehow they talked, and Randy wasn't coming to the hospital, and my mom got the information that he punched me in the face like 2 weeks prior. I don't know how that conversation went, but I know she knew then, but she doesn't know anything else. My dad kind of knows a little bit. My brothers are a little bit. They know more than my mom. Um, but just trying to stick up for myself. And then as soon as I left him and I was starting to see other people, then it was a problem, because if I can't have you, nobody can. Which leads to me into the next. Um, he did a lot. Um, a lot of things, and I'm in therapy. I have a great therapist, trauma therapist. He's amazing. Um,
Can I ask, before we talk about your journey with your, healing on the upside here, if you could tell people the red flags that you notice now looking back, you didn't notice them at the time, obviously, but when you look
mhm,
back, those very beginning red flags, maybe it was like even the first couple of times you met, is there things that you would have been like, oh, this is too good to be true, or he's schmoozing me because
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, I was talking to my dad, Ralph, about this the other night. He just finished the documentary on Netflix. And I said, I broke down certain parts. I said, does it sound familiar? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, does that sound familiar? Yeah. He goes, I'm sorry, like I didn't see it before. And I'm like, well, you do now. Like the first thing was meeting me immediately, me being manipulated and talked into enough to not even process that he was asking me to move and leave my entire support system, my college, my dream, my goals, my friends, my family, and move 700 miles away from everybody. He never
mm,
offered to move out to where I was. He got me where he wanted me. Um, Constantly talking bad about my mother. My mom was a good mom,
mm,
and constantly just putting her down, trying to get it in my head to make me think less of her because she was my support system. So over time, he made me think, see that he made up things about her. He used facts, but he did it in a way where he made it bad. So
yeah.
he almost brainwashed me to thinking all these things about my mom are bad. And then he started in on my brothers. And then he would start in on my stepdad. And that's where I draw the line because my stepdad stepped up and became the man and the dad that I needed. And I'm very defensive over him. Like I am rabid. So it was just very quick, just fast, and
Like you
I even
didn't
had
even
a
have time to
teacher.
process it. Like it was
Yes.
just, come move in with me. I'm going to give you everything you want in this world. And
Mhm.
you're 19, 20, thinking, yes, this is what I want. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And he was 21 and he was just, like I said, a ticket out of a small town. And
Mhm.
I saw the world opening up when I met him. And I was like, exactly. I was like, yes, let's do this without looking at the consequences of what could happen because you're young. Um, and then as time went on, even the first few months, it was this instability of him couldn't, he was always having a bigger dream.
Mhm.
It wasn't a stable job. It wasn't a goal, a long goal. It was every other day he wanted to do this, and then he was changing his mind and he wanted to do this, and then he wanted to go live here and go. And every day it was
Mhm.
something. And I'm
Almost
like,
like manic, like
mhm.
all over the place.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm a very structural person, and that was giving me a lot of anxiety because I'm like, I don't know what we're doing. Like, where are we gonna live? Like, and I can't say like that.
Mhm.
I wasn't like homeless or anything. We always had our bills paid. That's the only thing I can give him credit for. But like, you never knew what his next adventure and plan was going to be. And then he was one of those people, he would just do it overnight. And he had nothing to lose. He had nothing to, he had no kids. He had no, like, he always worked for himself most of the time. So he could just pick up and go and do whatever he wanted. And that was a constant battle the entire relationship up until the last day. Like, just I wanted to work for a company. He wanted to work for himself. He wanted to live in a van. I didn't want to. He wanted me to co-sign a van for him. I didn't. He wanted to travel, live off the grid. And I came home and all my shit was on the lawn. Like just, and then when I left, I went back a few times to get my mail and he had hacked my Facebook and saw
Mm.
that I was seeing this other guy who was my most recent relationship, and then I slept with him, and he strangled me, and I saw black, and I was on the ground. So it was okay for you to cheat on me all the time. I move out and actually try to go on with my life, and you strangle me, and that was the moment when I was done. Like I was like, this man's going to kill
Mhm.
me. Like legit. I was on the floor, and his dad was in the room right next to me, didn't even come in. Heard everything, did not even try to come in and say, he had to have heard me screaming, crying, and his son screaming, and then silence. Like, wouldn't that like trigger something to like what
We
just
know
happened?
that there's people in this world that do not intervene or don't care. So
Well, I think
unfortunately,
he was afraid of him too, because they've gone at
yeah,
it a few
that could
times, and
be.
I
Hmm.
think um and that I just left. I walked out. Again, I wasn't even really living there, but the person that I had just left, I was protecting, and I got strangled
Right.
for it because he was going to go after him, and I was trying to I was trying to protect this other person because this person's out of his mind, and I'm almost getting killed trying to protect this one. So that started a whole trauma bond with that one, and it is just it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot to carry, but I do. But there are many signs that I think the biggest one though was everything happening so fast and
Hmm.
not thinking things through because now I'm one of those people I think everything through um, for a long time. I'm not as impulsive as I used to be or sporadic
Yeah.
or spontaneous because now I know there's consequences. Back then I didn't think that could happen to me. And I didn't think I would
Nobody
let it.
does. Nobody
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
So
Wow.
that was, I think
Yeah.
that if that's the biggest thing I would ask people to look for is things that are not just unusual things. Just
Mm.
if you're a family member, is this typical? Like, is this a typical action this person would usually take? Are these the type of words,
Yeah.
this type of, are they usually like this? Like, look at the actions of the person that's going through this because their body language and lack of words
Hmm.
are going to give you more of an answer, I think, than, in hindsight. I can't blame my parents. They didn't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and you
say
would
the
think,
same thing. Like, look at the person that you know and love. If their behavior changes, what kind
yes,
of behavior is going on? Like, I'm sure that those mom gut feelings were there at times, but
yeah,
I always went with what Gabby was telling me. She wasn't with me physically, she was far away, like she was in Florida. So yeah, it's difficult, especially as a parent. So I'm sure your parents have this horrible feeling like, why couldn't I save her from this? But again, you don't know what you don't know, and we're not educated, and it's hard.
yeah, and I think living 700 miles away was a hell of a lot easier hiding it from
Yeah.
them than it was if I lived the next town over or down
Mm.
the street, even an hour away, because they couldn't actually see me. They could only hear my voice or they could get a text. They couldn't see anything. So I
Right.
could go 2, 3 weeks of the black eye. They don't know. Um, but my mom was born and raised in Jersey, and if she knew, someone would have had a baseball bat. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
She would not have, she wouldn't have, she would, there's no way that if she knew what was going on, that she would have let it continue. She would have been up here in a heartbeat and she'd probably be in jail. Like I know
Yeah.
that without her ever telling me that. Because she has told me in my past, like growing up, like if a guy ever hurt you, um, so I don't think she would ever blame herself because she knows I'm very stubborn and hard-headed and I don't blame her. Even though like again, that's why different types of abuse, she went through it, but she didn't see the signs with me. So,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
people that manipulate are so good at it. And, you said you're tough. You were tough. You're obviously very smart. I mean, it doesn't matter
mm-mm.
how. wonderful of a person you are, how smart you are, if you're rich, if you're poor, it doesn't matter where you're from.
Mm-mm.
Is this can happen to anyone. So
Mm-hmm.
I always try
Mm-hmm.
to reiterate that it doesn't matter if you could have a doctorate. Somebody can be that good
Mm-hmm.
at manipulation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wrote that last night in my notes. Is like it doesn't matter your income, your
Mhm.
career, your gender, your age, your zip code. Abuse happens everywhere in the world, and it might happen differently. Everybody has a different story, but there's a pattern. There's a pattern to it if people pay attention, and those abusers are a lot alike. So
Yeah,
if people
very
start paying
similar.
attention,
Hmm.
that's why when again Gabby's story. When I saw it, I was in the kitchen. I remember I was cooking, and I remember the first time I saw her flyer, and then I remember every like things that were coming after. And when they found her, I fell to my floor in my kitchen and I cried. And my friend said, "Why are you so upset?" And I was like, "Because that could have been me. Like that like it's I told you the van life.
Hmm.
I was a social media influencer. There were so many things, Nikki, that just and I was like, holy shit. Like I left, but that could have because he wanted to drag me across the country and live in a van. And I'm like, to see that and I don't know how to explain it for people to understand, and they don't have to, but her story made me realize like you need to talk. You need to tell people this because the more people that know, you're gonna, even if it's one person, because that person's gonna start a chain reaction and that person's gonna tell somebody and that person's gonna
Hmm.
tell somebody. And anytime you turn your head or you don't want to get involved, you're helping their abuser. You're not helping that
Yeah.
person. So her story just really just so similar that it made me feel safe to just start talking. I was like, I can't be quiet about this anymore. Like, because when I saw the ripple effect, I was like, holy shit, like, there's a lot
Yeah.
of people in this world. And I wasn't alone. I just didn't have the resources or the safety net. I had nobody to talk to. And I think that's the biggest, you guys give a huge platform and the network, Justin Crime and all these other reporters and media and the Bethunes and all these people you talk to, like they're giving everybody a safe space. And that is what I wish I had more than anything else, just a
Yeah.
space to talk to somebody.
I'm starting to see that narrative change a little bit where more people are coming out telling their stories, more people are listening, and more people are wanting to learn.
Hmm.
And I just give that all that credit to Gabby.
Hmm.
Like she's her light is just shining on everyone and wanting them to be safe. And she, we're not gonna stop what we're doing.
Hmm.
Some people think that survivor stories aren't meaningful. I've heard, a lot of creators and a lot of the media, they don't want to talk about these things. They want to talk about the sensational, the end, what happened to the person because now they're no longer here. Let's talk about that story. They don't want to talk about the manipulation and the red
No.
flags and the abuse that goes on for years in some cases.
Hmm.
And let's change all that narrative and remind people that these homicides are preventable through these stories being shared so that people can understand it better. That's the
Hmm.
problem is people just don't understand it.
Hmm.
And we need to make sure that people do understand it because if you can be a good bystander, we got to train bystanders. Everybody has a mission to help other humans on this earth. And, if you don't think you're important enough, you can be like just knowing how to connect somebody to a service to
Hmm.
get them help that they need is a superpower. So
Yes,
we want to arm
absolutely.
everybody with these tools. It's important. So
That's
let's
when I
talk about
started.
yeah, go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just say real quick the project. I don't know what I'm calling it yet because there so many things mean a lot to me. So that's why I have like some allies right now, like my friend Jim. He's a survivor of narcissistic abuse from a female. He's a male
Yep.
survivor, and he and I have helped each other through this. And this ties into it. He and I didn't talk for 2 years because my ex was his best friend, and he had to cut my best friend out of his life because of the narcissistic abuse. And then me and Jim couldn't be friends because the X common factor. And I chose the common factor over Jim because, again, trauma bond. Jim didn't understand it until he went through it. And when we reconnected 2 months ago, I came to his house and it was like we picked up right where we left off. And he gave me a big hug and he cried and he's like, I'm sorry because he did not. he always just he was like, why don't you just leave? Why are you putting up with this? And now
Hmm.
he gets it. And it's like he felt bad, and but he also felt good that we connected and we needed each other. But he's helping, and then I have I have like three or four people, different interests or experiences, or they work with resources or they're clinical directors. So I have certain people like finding certain things and posting about certain things. I'm like, I can't do it all. And I'm very like, I want to do everything myself. I'm like, this is something you cannot do by yourself. So three people are like doing the, missing persons. Another one's doing the indigenous missing people. One's doing the narcissistic abuse. One's doing domestic violence, all around mental abuse, and then some are doing the drug and alcohol, LGBTQIA. And I'm like, I cannot post everything. People are gonna hate my Facebook. I know people are getting notifications like crazy, but that's how I branded myself to get where I'm at. So I'm like, if you don't like it, delete me. Like I'm not gonna not put something out there that's important because people don't
Yeah.
like a notification. So
Yeah, well, your niche is everybody. You care about
yeah.
everything. So it's
Exactly.
fine.
Well, I started
Right?
out domestic violence, and I'm like, guys, like I can't name it this because there's so much that falls into that,
Yeah.
or missing persons, or loss and trauma, or
Mhm.
drugs, like
Mental
everything.
health, everything. Yeah.
Kids, I'm a huge advocate for kids with loss and trauma. So I'm like, I need to come up with a name, and I'm not there yet. So it's a temporary placeholder, but
What did that
it's
guy say on your Facebook post? I really liked it. Something corner.
oh, that was a gem, turning the corner.
I
Yeah.
really I really like that.
Yeah, we're probably gonna go with that one. I wanted to see other suggestions, but I was last night, I was actually when I was texting you last night, I was texting him and I'm thinking, I'm probably gonna go with that because I like keeping my name in it. Because again, I have built trust and credibility on with Clients Corner with clients and the community and
Hmm.
nonprofits and restaurants, and then turning it into bringing them all over to my radio sales clients. So I want my name to be a part of it, but I don't want it to be about me. If that makes sense. Like I want it to be like a branch of what I've been through and what I've done, but now like it's taking a turn from
Yeah,
marketing
see?
to helping the community. So we're probably gonna go with that. I just didn't want to tell him yet.
No, it's fabulous. It's fabulous.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw that and I was gonna comment because I had a couple of ideas in my head and I'm like, my ideas are not that good. This is the one.
yeah.
So
No, he's really good. He's a
mm.
good guy. He's in the other room, so I'm sure he can hear me. But yeah, we're probably gonna go with that. But he's the one that I said might come out with me to New York if he doesn't have a he does Reiki and psychic stuff
I
too.
do
So
Reiki.
well,
That's
I told him,
awesome.
yeah. I'm
I
trying
see
to
the
get him to
evil
come,
eye
but
behind you. I see the
what?
evil eye hanging behind you.
Yeah. I told him to go get one of those and he did. So remember I was
Awesome.
telling you I had all those
Yeah.
dreams of the evil eye with my friend Phyllis. So
Mhm.
yeah, he went out and got one.
That's
But
amazing.
that's my goal here. And then real quick, just to transition into the healing. I mean, I have to talk about my previous relationship real quick because I just want people
Yeah.
to know the signs of that. That was the one, when I met him, it was like this electrifying like, walk through my soul. Like, I want that puppy in the window and I'm not going to stop until I get him. And I really didn't have to work for it. It was just a mutual interest. And we hung out for a few times and then it just unraveled. And he kept breadcrumbing. He never would put an official label. He
And
would
this is
never,
more your most recent
yes,
relationship? Okay.
this is the one I have a PFA on. So again, I'm going to put that into perspective. Somebody who didn't put their hands on me got a PFA
Hmm.
before somebody who put their hands on me did. So that's the extent of mental and emotional abuse that somebody can do to you. Um, Loved this man. I wanted to spend the rest of my life. I didn't love the first one. Like I was naive. I didn't love him like I loved this one. This one was stars in my eyes. The world slowed down when he was my everything, my best friend. I had at that time I was starting my life over when I met him. So he met me in that transition where I was at rock bottom, and he helped me find me again. He was a light in a dark room, and that light was flickering for a long time. It was trying to burn, and it just burned out. Um, he served his purpose. A lot of good came from knowing him. I don't regret ever meeting him or being with him. I regret staying long, that free will, after already being in an abusive relationship. I should have known it wasn't right. But it was, like I said, it was a whole different dynamic. And I knew it was abuse, but I kept making excuses that it wasn't. Because the narcissism and the manipulation was way different than the type of narcissism and manipulation the first one did. Because they said there's 8 different kinds of narcissism, and this one was a charming trickster. This one was all the girls want to date him, all the guys want to be him. He's got this smooth, he's the, he can sing, he can play the guitar, he's intelligent, has a master's degree, like had everything, right? And I'm just like, oh, I can have somebody better than what I was with. So I was enamored. It really is what it was. I'm like, I want him. So he saw me in my very dark place, and I thought, if this guy's sticking around when I'm broken and at rock bottom and he sees something in me, like he's worth pursuing. Little did I know that's his shtick, if that's what you want to call it. He finds vulnerable women who are broken and preys on them. And I don't mean prey as in he's going to hurt them physically. He just knows how to, the song, like I said, Liar from Henry Rollins, I sent you. He knows how to just like psychologically just get you wrapped around them where you will literally submit and do anything. I don't know how they do it. I think it's the purest of evil. I think it's the purest. I don't even know how to put it in words, Nikki. It's just,
I almost feel like they can like almost hypnotize people. Like you know what I mean? Like they're so good at what they
yeah.
do that they're controlling you
Mhm.
and your
Yeah.
mind.
And you don't
Yeah.
know it because they're fun, they're charming, they're goofy. They got that swag. And I remember the one thing that stuck with me, and to this day, and no offense to Dane Cook if everybody likes Dane Cook, but something that this person said to me, it just stuck with me. And it really didn't hit until a few years later when he goes, I find, or I meet women and I move them on to where they need to be. I'm like, good luck, Chuck. And I never processed it and went, what the fuck? Like, basically, I'm going to find you when you're broken. I'm going to build your self-esteem up. And when I don't need you or want you anymore, I'm going to throw you away like a broken toy. And good luck, hope for the best. And that's exactly what he did. He found me in a bad spot, got me, like, helped me. I met a lot of people. I met a lot of businesses. Again, there's good that came from him. I got all the best friends I have in the world now are because I met him. My careers, because I met him, I changed my life. I didn't even apply to my job. I found an apartment here I didn't apply for. All this, like, I felt like when I met him, everything in my life was like, um, what's the word? Starts with an S. Is it serendipitous? Everything lined up the way it was supposed to be at the right time where I didn't have to put any. It was like I manifested it all. Okay, yeah, we talk about that.
Yeah.
I manifested all of
Synchronicities.
this.
Yes. Everything just
Synchronicities that all
falls into
happened
place.
at one time in one year. 2018 to 2019 was like the best year. I had the guy, I had the job, I had the car, I had everything that I built myself up. And then it started after the first years when he started his bullshit of he would just disappear. He would ghost me for weeks. But and then I had to show up one time where I knew he was at, and I had to be that girl to confront him in public that he's not going to treat me that way. I put my foot down. Well, I really don't want a relationship. A year later, and you're just going to ghost me like it's that is when I should have stopped. I should have cut it off. And nope, I made an excuse. So he would deactivate his social media for a month because he would recharge. He would disappear and only talk to certain people. But I found out really he was sleeping with other people. And if he deactivated his social media, people couldn't look for him and find him online and find his real life. So he was living literally a double life. I didn't see him for a month. He came back in, acted like nothing happened. And this was going on for 6 years. He eventually stopped the disappearing act like 3 years in. But he would do other stuff, like constantly cut me down on my weight, like joking, or use my mental health against me and call me neurotic, or oh, here we go again. Oh, you're going through the cycle again. Here we go. 3 weeks, it's time. Like because he would do stuff and then I would be reactive abuse. And then when I reacted, I was crazy, I was neurotic, I was a mental health project, I was obsessive and I told you didn't want a relationship from the start, it's your own fault. Just it was always me. He'd like, don't go blaming me, sunshine. Like I told you where I stood from the beginning. Then why are you still here 5 years later? Like be a man and walk away. Be a man and stop. No, you're 43 years old and you're playing games like you're a frat boy. Like so he's emotionally stunted. obviously. But again, he was another one where I knew I could see right through the veil and I knew who he was and he hated it from the beginning. And that's why this one doesn't talk to him anymore because he could see right through him. And he didn't like that about us because everybody else could be charmed and tricked. And we saw right through his bullshit and we called him out on it and he didn't like it. So he could never really pull one up over on us. And I said, I may not find out today, but I'm going to find out. And I always found out. And when I threw the proof in his face, he would literally still gaslight me and say, believe whatever you want. I have the text message from this girl, like a conversation you guys had, and I'm supposed to believe whatever I want. It was just a whole 6 years of, I mean, he did more, the never knowing what we were when like we're dating and then we're friends and then we're buddies and then we're friends and then we're dating and then we're not. Like it was always on his terms for 6 years. So it got to a point where people were asking me, "Are you guys together again?" I don't know. I don't know. Are you guys together? Go ask him. I'm sick of trying to explain it, and then it got to a point where people just assumed we were, but we weren't. And like it was so embarrassing when I'd have girls message me and be like, I just found out about you, but he was at my house last night. Oh, okay, cool. And then when I confronted him, I was the problem. He hit on my friends, and then they were the problem when they told me they were shit starters. It was always everybody else. So the psychological damage that he did and the emotional of the hot and the colds, the ups and the downs, I was addicted to the coming and going with him because it was like an abandonment. He started my abandonment issues because I never knew when he was going to leave, but he always came back. Or, oh, is he going to disappear this week for 3 weeks? Oh, you know what? I'll just suffer through it. He'll come back. And it got to a point where it was just, he called my friend fat in a bar, my best friend, that I've told you about, and called me all these names, and he was annihilating a few people, almost beat him up. And then after that, I was just, I can't, I said, that's my best friend. Like, I draw a line, you know what I mean? Like, I should do that with myself, but I'm so caring about other people that the look in her face was enough for me to be like, no, never again. So I started living my life and seeing guys here and there, just, random dates. And every time he knew who they were, he would approach them in public. Now, he's not a confrontational guy, so he was starting to show his own colors. He took the mask off. People saw how he treated me in public, screaming, verbally abusing me, my friends. And then he was just acting out of character. And like he literally was going, I mean, posting things online. He never posted anything about his personal life. And he started slamming me online, using my first and full name. I work in the media. Like I don't need that. So I just stayed quiet and I went to the cops and reported it for slander. And he actually physically assaulted somebody I know because I was singing karaoke and they were sitting at my table and he walked in and just hit them. And that's just out of character. Like I've never seen him that way. So I'm like, for someone who didn't want me fully, now is a problem with me moving on, but it was okay for you to sleep around. You know what I'm like? It was just, why did I stay in that when I already dealt with that? And I'm helping my friend with that right now because it's like you go back to what's familiar, right? You go back to what you're
Yeah.
nervous. You know how to navigate it. It's familiar. You don't, healthy is unknown. Like you're not used to that in a
Yeah.
relationship. So he
What's
really,
crazy about your story is you went from one form of
Mhm,
abuse, which looked
mhm.
very different, into another relationship. Because do you feel like because you found this person when you were at your low, that that was why it was more easy for you to fall into this rather than,
Yes. I didn't give myself time to process and grieve and heal
yeah,
and find myself. I just went right to the next one. And I became very codependent on him because that was the second time I started my life where I had no friends, no support system. And I used him and I just like dug my claws into him of, oh, he's my lifesaver. He saved my life. Like if it wasn't for him, I probably would not be here today. And like I put him so far up on a pedestal that I just idolized him and I saw just the golden rays of heaven on him. Like I don't know. Everyone used to say, like, what do you see in him? And I'm like, I can't explain to you what it is about him that makes me like this. He just drove me in a good way at the time. He drove me crazy. Now he drives me crazy in different ways. But he had this aura like, around him that just made me addicted. And I wanted to make him proud. I don't know what I was doing, but it's just weird to think that I did it twice.
No,
Um,
no, it's important to explain that because people think, well, if you go through it once, there's no way you're going to let that happen again. But
I said that when I
that's not the
left, and I
truth.
went through it for another
Yeah.
6 years, and
Hmm.
no, he never laid his hand on me. I'm thankful for that, but who's to say he never would, or just the trauma alone of what he did mentally and verbally, just I never realized how bad it was, and I've been out since September, I'd say. And now looking back, I'm like, holy shit. Like seeing things from hindsight, I was like, I saw him in court and I just wanted to puke. I was like, what the hell was I thinking? I don't, it's just so weird that you're just
The
the
different lens
veil.
now, you're like, wow, that was me. You probably don't even feel like you, right? Like you're detached
Mm.
a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
very odd standing next to him because I just didn't feel like we ever had a connection. It was a very emotional day because it was just weird. Like he just felt like a stranger to me. But that was there was just something about him, but he knows how to psychologically get in your head, and it's scary. To let somebody do that and see how many people he's done it to,
Mm.
and
Was
how
that
many.
moment in court when you
Mhm.
took him, was that powerful for you? Did it give you like your power back in a way?
Yeah. Jim was with me, and again, Jim has his own story with him, but I was standing in front of the judge, and I was in a room full of people. Now I never knew that court hearings like that were in a room full of people. That was the first time I've ever done that. I thought I was just going to go in with the judge, me, him, and now there's like bench was full of people. And I'm like,
Mm.
this is sad that this many people are in here for a PFA. That was an eye opener. But when I got in front of the judge, he was next to me and he's always got confidence and he kind of like cowered that day. And to me, I told my boss, it was like another sales call. I walk up, I give my story, I give my pitch. If you buy it, cool. If not, like I'm giving you the truth. That's my job to tell you. And if you believe me, all right, sold. If not, like I'm not going to stand here and try to persuade somebody to believe me that I was abused. I didn't even get that far because he asked for a continuance. So the second time I go up, I'm standing in front of her. He's standing next to me and I don't make eye contact, but I strut my shit right up there with my boots, like I'm going in to make the biggest sale of my life. And I stood there with my head held high and I did not, for once, just let him have that satisfaction because it's not that I was afraid of him for my life. I don't want to say that he made me feel I was in danger but the fact that I saw him out of character and him hit somebody else, and I've never seen that with him. He's the most calm person you'd ever meet in your life. Made me wonder what is he capable of. And I had to teach this kid a lesson because it was like, you're going to keep bothering me and you're going to keep manipulating me. And obviously, I'm going to keep allowing it. I have to draw a boundary for myself and if I have to go to the law to do it because I know right now he's so manipulative and controlling, Nikki. He's probably the only thing that he's pissed about is that he can't manipulate me right now. Because if he does, he makes contact, he goes to jail. He has no control. And it's not that, again, I don't think he would have, taken my life at all. But God knows if he's out of character, I don't know what he would have done. From the little that I've seen from October to January, was not the person I knew for 6 years. And that was scary. I was like, because he's very cares what people think. He has a reputation he's got to uphold. So for him to act like that in public was scary to me because I was like, well,
Um, just with coercive control,
yes.
there's been a lot of studies done, and
Hmm.
women who have been taken by homicide, that was actually the first physical thing. Coercive control doesn't mean they're not going to harm you. So
Hmm.
the fact that you said that's important because you're like, oh, maybe he wouldn't have, he could have.
It could have.
He obviously had a switch and you saw it flipped. So
And that was
luckily it wasn't with you. Yeah.
when I did the PFA, like when I first went, I felt guilty. And then at the end, I was like, no, because he could have came to my house. He could have flipped a switch when he got drunk and hit me. Like he could have strangled me. I'm not saying he would have, but I didn't think the other one was going to do it either. And he did. So, and I didn't want to take chances this time. It was kind of taking a precaution for myself and setting a boundary for myself and for him that you're not going to hurt me anymore. You cross this line, you're going to have a consequence because the kid never had consequences his whole life. But I wanted to feel safe emotionally. I couldn't physically feel safe if I'm emotionally and mentally not. Like the anxiety and the stress and not eating and it's affecting my work. Like just because he wasn't hitting me doesn't mean I wasn't getting abused or I felt traumatized by him because he did a lot of damage to me. So him out of my life by the saying that the cops, I mean, the judge did a grant emergency PFA. I mean, he had the proof in front of him because he slandered me. He sent me text messages, harassed my friends. I mean, I gave them a good document of proof. It wasn't like me walking in there and just
Yeah.
telling my story. I had stuff to back it up, but I think that took his power away. But I warned him though. I said, "You ever push me to this point? Don't push me to that point. You're gonna regret it." And he did. I don't know if he thought it was a game, but I had to do it. So I had to do it for myself. So I had to stand
Yeah.
up because I couldn't keep living like that. And I would have, if I didn't do what I did, he'd probably be back in my life, just manipulating me and I'd be miserable. But again, I didn't know what he was going to do. I mean, he hit somebody that he's known for 20 years just because they were hanging out with me. What is he going to do to me if he's, so he was out of character and I wasn't playing games. I wasn't trusting it. And I just needed a safe space. And if it's a year, just to leave me alone so I can have some mental peace and emotional peace to get my physical good because Lord knows I've been sick for 7 months. And that all ties together. The mental and the emotional goes hand in hand with your physical. And I can't feel physically safe if I'm trapped up here. You know what I mean? Like I can't explain it. I can't
So
explain.
I didn't, I knew that something happened soon, like recently, but like I didn't realize how recent it was. So I'm
Yeah.
like talking about your healing. You're really just starting your healing journey.
Yeah.
You're not there yet. Yeah.
No. I'm starting my friend, my best friend Julie, and she's okay if I use her name. She is me in a younger form. She's 29, but she acts like she's 50. She's an old soul. And she's a clinical director and she's dealt with a lot of loss and trauma. And she has said things to me that just clicked. And it took a little bit, and everything that girl has told me, I've applied. And I had dinner with her tonight, and I was like, "I'm different, aren't I?" And she's like, "Yeah." Like she's seen the growth. I've started this. Started separating myself from him in July, and then October was like shut the door.
Mhm.
Um, but it was probably the past year since last December 2023. It was when I really started pulling away, and I knew I wanted to end it. I just wasn't there yet. Um, but yeah, I am healing. I feel a lot better than I did. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. I'm always sick, but that's my immune system. It's a journey because you're stuck in your head a lot, but I have a support system now, so I'm not alone. And I have stories like Gabby's and stories from other people, and just to see how other people have risen up inspires me. I'm not gonna lay in bed all day and cry over what happened. I can't change it. But if I can turn around, like I know sometimes when I'm sick, I'll do something, like I'll start a GoFundMe for another kid who has disabilities or sick. Just I try to put the good vibe back out there to help somebody else so I don't, it just makes me feel better to help other people. So
Yeah.
that's how I
That's your
heal.
love language. Is like
But it is
giving. Yeah.
giving
Doing acts of service, all that
and
stuff. Yeah.
quality time. Yeah, I love helping people. It makes me feel better. I could feel like the worst, just sick, and if I'm helping somebody, it makes me feel 10
Hmm.
times better. Um, I just want to help everybody, and I can't help everybody, but I want to. So it's hard.
Yeah. Why is it important to you to share this story now?
I think because I'm older and wiser, um, and experienced, and now that there's so much more education on it, I feel like my story is important because it happened. And I think other people hearing somebody who's been through it and still came out the other side and is still living and breathing and still having fun and it's not defining me. I think it's just to be a voice for somebody else. Um, I just want to, like I said, there's 8 million people, 8 billion people in the world. If one person hears me, that's enough because that saves one life. And then they're going to maybe feel inspired to do the same thing. Um, but because now I'm completely out of abuse that I dealt with for 17 years. I think that's why I want to tell it now because I'm healing, I'm with therapy, I'm starting to see things in a different light, a different perspective. And while I'm doing things with my therapist or my friends and getting myself good, it helps me self-reflect. It helps me find my own toxic patterns. Everybody has their own. And I don't want to carry all of this pain and hate and bitterness and anger into another relationship. I want to get it out. And my therapist is big on me just talking and rambling and texting and just get it out. And I think the more you talk about it, the more you learn as well. Like I hear myself sometimes, I'm like, wow, you have grown a lot. You've learned a lot. Like, you're not going to make the same mistake again. You might make a different mistake, but it's just important. Like, you're going to learn, hopefully you'll learn from your mistakes. And I'm not saying I'm the blame for the abuse, but some of my actions, free will, I was a really bad toxic texter with certain somebody that I would just black out and just text novels and novels and novels, and I don't do that anymore. Um, Somebody triggers me, instead of arguing, I just put my phone aside and I don't give them that energy. So telling my story is helping me learn how to better control my narrative, but also help people without coming off like an asshole and be bitter and I don't know. Like, I just feel like
Yeah,
somebody needs to hear it. And I wish I had that. It's all. Just wish I did.
amazing. Um, do you have any messages for someone who might be going through something right now? Maybe a young 19, 20-year-old girl who's in a relationship that feels a little bit too much. Any advice for anyone, or a family, like a mother or father that wants to help somebody that's going through something? Any advice for anybody out there?
Um, Listen. I wrote this down last night. Ask questions, even if it's
Mhm.
uncomfortable. Ask questions. If you see something, say something. You never know who is hoping that you ask because they're just holding it inside and they just want a safe space. So even if you're wrong, you might offend somebody or insult somebody, but it's better than keeping somebody in a situation that could take their life. Don't pass any judgment. If you haven't lived it, I don't think you have the right to ever judge or make an opinion on what someone's going through. Even the little remark I know drives everybody crazy that's been abused of why didn't they just leave? Why did you stay so long? And I put up a meme I saw the other day you shared that said, instead of asking her why did she leave, ask how did he hit her? Why did he hit her? Like stop blaming the victim
Yeah,
and start
don't be part of
questioning.
the problem.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Call the cops if you see or say something. You might not be right, but it's better than doing nothing and it being something bad later. And then offer the resources that you know you have. Even if it's saying, I know in Pennsylvania, I don't know if they do this in Florida, that there's a thing going around from the Pennsylvania department saying if you can't call in a dangerous situation, you can text 911. So that's a PA thing. I don't know if that's national but I've been seeing that going around. So like you can now text law enforcement if you're in an
Yeah, I have
emergency.
heard something about texting. I have to look into that more, but I don't know if it's
Hmm.
state by state but yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a resource.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know that back then because my phone would get smashed if I tried. So,
Mhm.
I think the message, be more compassionate, extend, just extend your hand and your heart. Don't downplay someone else's story because yours wasn't as bad or it doesn't sound that bad or oh somebody has it worse. Don't ever downplay somebody else's trauma. That's not your place. Be a voice for those who can't be a voice for those who want to be. I was always that kid in school who if a kid was afraid to ask a question I would do it for them. Like I'm
Mhm.
always a voice. I've always been a voice. um and you have to save yourself. Not that it's easy, not that you always have the opportunity because you don't always have the means, but if you can, you got to find every ounce of strength and love and power you have. And even if it's scary to make that first step, going forward, not knowing is better than staying where you're at, being scared, miserable, having your life at stake. I think that's the biggest. The unknown is scary, but it can't be as scary as what you're dealing with. That's how I got through it. And then there was one more thing I was gonna, men get abused too. I think that needs, I was talking to Jim, your husband, this morning. I saw a post of a county in Florida for
Hmm.
men talking about abuse, and I didn't know he was the president. And I sent it to him, and I said, "Oh, only if men did, more counties did this." And he goes, "Oh, I'm the president of this or something." And I was like, "No shit!" Like
Yeah, the
I didn't
Florida
know that.
partnership. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's the
so
vice president. Yeah.
vice president. But I didn't know that, and it just came across my feed. I sent it to him. He's like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "Wow, like that's random." But and then again, what we said earlier, abuse happens everywhere to everyone. You don't get out of jail free card for your skin color or income level or the kind of career you have. It doesn't work like that. Um, More voices are better than one. So the more people talk, the more ears hear, and the more people see, the more eyes see it. And it's just a chain reaction. So I just want to say one last thing. Offer resources, offer knowledge you have, offer a hand and be a friend, and in Gabby's words, just be a nicer person. That's that's it. Just be a nicer person. You don't have to
Yeah.
say anything. Just be a nicer person. Be just the golden rule my mom taught me is just do to others what you want to you and be nice. That's it.
Yeah. I
There's a
know.
lot.
I love that. Oh, you did awesome. I think, are you good? Do you have anything else you want to share? Do you want to talk about where people can find you on social media?
Yeah. Yeah, I told you like I answered all your questions last night.
Amazing.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't, you know, um there was stuff you asked me and I ramble. Um the steps, I think there was something I wanted to say about how I left the first one
Sure.
safely.
Hmm.
I was already making a plan without him knowing. I was stashing all the money I had aside. I actually opened a different bank account and had
Wow.
my boss who was paying me under the table. Um, when his wife would deposit the checks for the other employees, direct deposit, they were putting it right in my account, and it was an account that I nobody knew about. So that helped. And I just acted like it didn't exist, and I just let it pile up. I was secretly looking for roommates on Craigslist back when Craigslist was a thing, even in 2018.
Mhm.
And I had met a woman who was looking to making a little bit of extra income. Her kids moved out and she was alone, and I think she was in her 40s, 50s, and she just wanted a companion. And it was about 45 minutes to where I lived, and it's actually right by the college I went to that Tara's cousin's mom is a
Okay.
professor at in a small world, but or a teacher. And I had stayed in contact. I went and looked at it once during work and kept her contact. And I said, I'm not ready yet. If this, I'll be in touch. Hopefully, this room will still be available. And the day that I wouldn't co-sign for him to get that van and he threw my shit all over the lawn, I picked up what I could that I could fit in my car. I left my cats, which I eventually got back, but I just packed what I could as fast as I could. I left and I never went back. I showed up at her house and I lived with her for 6 or 7 months. So, I mean, I have to give her a lot of credit. She took in a stray that she didn't know, but she was a safe haven too. And he didn't know where she was. It was far enough away out in the middle of nowhere. He had no idea where I was. There was a chance he could still bump into me if I went down to Scranton, but it was a good way for me to hide out. And I was working for myself, so I really didn't have to be out in public. Um, so I had that plan before I even left. I mean, and I was kind of crashing on my friends' couches here and there too, slowly moving stuff out of the house without him realizing it. And I was keeping a lot of it at her house. And then when I was ready to move to this other woman's house, that I took it all with me. So because he wasn't home because he was out with whoever he was for days on end, he wasn't realizing the things that I was doing. And I knew his routine, so I would slowly, even if it was two things, I would throw in my car, take it. Two, three more things. Oh, an outfit here or there. You can't do it all at once because obviously it's noticeable. But have a plan, save money if you can. If not, the resources, just use Facebook as a network. I mean, it really can Facebook can save a life. I mean, the domestic violence, the victim centers, the women centers, the food pantries, there are the police, the social workers, Dress for Success. There's so many organizations that even YMCA's can help. Like there's so many
Yeah.
people. Um, and a lot of them are confidential, like the therapists you talk to. And I know it's scary, but like find one person that can just let you talk. Everything else, you just have to be as smart as you can be with what means you have. It's hard because
Yeah.
everybody's in a different situation. So like the way I got
Yes.
out might not be the same for somebody else. So I don't want to say like do it my way because it's not going to
Right.
work like
But
that.
it's important to mention the safety plan and because it is the most dangerous time to leave.
Hmm.
So having a plan in place and somebody or someone, hopefully multiple people or an advocate or somebody that you're working with that knows your situation and knows about your
Hmm.
plan.
Hmm.
It sounds like you had a lot of support, which is wonderful. You had your bosses and you had this woman who you could move it like, but you
I
you did all that. You asked for
I
help.
did,
Right? Yeah.
but I didn't at the time realize that they were. Looking
Hmm.
back, yes. And I don't think
Hmm.
they realized that they were because they didn't really know the extent of what I was going through either. I
Yeah.
just said, "Can you put this in account?" But I don't think they were blind to it, but I don't know if they were in tune with it.
Yeah.
But I did have support at the time, though. I just didn't call them that. But now they're like saving grace. You know what I mean? Like they're my angels in the time I needed them because I had people, and it's got to be scary for people who have nobody, no job, no coworkers, no friends, no family. I mean, I know there's people like that have nobody. I can't imagine the fear and the anxiety and the loneliness
Mhm.
that they feel. I mean, they really have to do it alone. And that's a whole nother level I haven't experienced, and I hope nobody does, but there's still, if you have access to 911, a shelter, food pantries, a Facebook group, just something to open the door. Keep fake numbers in your phone, fake names. I mean, you gotta start
Gotta
being
kind of be smart about it. And
smart. Yeah.
now, I mean, back then it probably wasn't as prominent, but now people are tracking people very easily. So there's always that fear if your phone is being tracked, your vehicle's being tracked because they all have satellite in them now. So like
Oh, that
there's
was something I was gonna tell you.
another whole
Yeah.
additional worry for survivors. So the planning is essential and
My
working with someone is essential. Yeah.
my first ex put a tracker on this past ex's car.
Wow.
I forgot to mention that. And
What?
he never knew until 3 or 4 years in when my other ex called me and said, "Oh, by the way, I put a tracker on his car a few years ago. If you shimmy under, it feels like a hockey puck." And I went out one morning, I found it on his car. I never told him. That's what I was dealing with. And there was probably one on my car and he never told me because I had traded my car in and got another one. Guarantee you there was one on my car. That's scary. Like
Yeah.
that's a whole other level of
Yeah.
but yeah, having the plan was I did it the way I knew how. The knowledge and the means that I had is what I used. Um Sometimes I don't take this the wrong way. I hate saying this, but sometimes you learn things from narcissists and abusers and manipulators, and you can use it in your back pocket to your advantage to be one step ahead of them. You have to sometimes play their own game and make them think that they have the power and make them think that you're just submitting to everything, and in the background, just just
No, that
turn.
makes lots of sense.
Yeah.
That's a great tool to use because you're basically just pretending, but you're using their own tactics against them. And
Yeah,
yeah.
but I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, don't let them know that you're doing it. But and I
Right.
don't mean to do it. Don't do it to just anybody. But sometimes beating them at their own game, which I did with this last one, I
Hmm.
knew because he was a psychological abuser. I had to get in his head to
Right.
flip the game and take my power back. It wasn't about slandering him or I just knew how to do it because I was like, okay, you got to think like them. If they're manipulative enough and charming enough and smooth enough to get things by, and it's not that you want to learn, you just pick it up. And I don't like saying that, but I've probably used it once or twice in this past to get away from this last one because I was like, all right, I watched you. Now like I think there's a meme that goes around I love that says, "You made me study narcissism. Now enjoy my educated ass." That's what it is. That
Yeah.
because like you taught me
It's
you
like
taught me
so
what this is, and now I'm like
yeah,
now I know about it. I
like
can
giving
play your
someone a
game.
taste of their own medicine.
Yeah,
Like
and
that
I don't
old
want
saying.
to, but
Yeah.
it's just
But
you
you
did
have to for
this.
your own safe. It's literally for your own
Yeah,
safety. It's
yeah,
not, you're not
that's all
trying
it
to hurt
is.
somebody. Yeah. Um,
Mhm.
so it's so crazy, right? Everything you probably could talk for 4 or 5 hours on it, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah.
Um, is there anything before you tell people where to find you? Do you have anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
just talking about it helps me, so thank you. Just talk. I think just talking about it, educate yourself, be less judgmental, and just be a nicer person.
I love
I
it.
think I just want to thank people who do watch you guys and support you, and I want to thank you guys. You know, I tell you this all the time, but the work that you guys are doing is just changing the world, and I have no words for the things that you've done, and it's just admirable. And I want to make an impact like you guys. And I think the more that people that you inspire, the more people are going to. And I think it's just going to be a chain reaction and it needs to happen.
Thank you. Thank you. We try. We're trying. I mean, we're not experts by any means, but we're trying. So,
Well, you're doing more than a lot. So a lot of people do nothing. And
yeah.
you're learning as you go. It's not like you knew how to do this, you
No,
know.
this wasn't a world I ever thought I'd be part of. Um, yeah, it
Mm.
sucks, but I hope that lives are being saved because of Gabby's voice. So,
I've seen all the TikToks. I try to send you and Jim. People are like,
yeah,
"Oh, yeah, I wish Gabby's mom knew how much this saved my life." And I'm like, "I'll send it to her." Like, I don't know. I think that is powerful. You know,
it is. Yeah, it is.
and
I
how
want to
many
start
people
a
it
because of Gabby's section on the website because I get so many it, messages that start off because of Gabby. I'm alive today. Like basically, like a lot of the messages start off like that, and I'm like, that's really amazing.
didn't you say you're gonna have a spot on your website called Because of Gabby or something? Did I hear
Yes.
that correctly?
Yeah, I want to do that. I'm working on that now. Like I'm going through. I have a lot of emails and messages. I want to ask people first. I mean, for the most part, I could take little excerpts. I don't know if I'm saying that right, out of them, like little
Yeah.
sentences that really have a lot of like boom power. Because I read one at Crime Con in Orlando and on stage, and I pulled them out of different ones, and we each read a piece of one, and like we made the whole audience cry with just those. So it was, yeah, it was really cool. So I'm
And
like,
imagine all the voices that you haven't heard. Like there's other countries, and I mean, have you guys had a lot of people from other countries reach out? Or is it
yeah,
mainly,
yeah,
yeah?
yeah, like Australia, the UK, and then like
Wow.
Brazil, Spain, some other weird countries that I don't even know how to pronounce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's just,
Actually, this is like the United States, and so there's countries that have it much worse than us,
oh,
and laws that are much worse, and like just and then entire countries where it's normal, like men are allowed to be this way because that's their religion or their belief and whatever, and yeah, so the world needs some help. Yeah,
I actually have a friend from Saudi Arabia. He's been over here a few years, and when he came over, he had to learn a lot. But it's been a learning adventure. He's such a sweet kid. But that's how he was raised. You know, you can't, it's ignorant to think that everybody lives the same way you do. But
yeah,
now that he's lived here for 5 years, 6 years, you could see how much compassion he's gotten and how much more open and welcoming he is to people. And he calls himself out on stuff. So it's interesting to see he recognizes that's not right how you treat human beings, you know, even though he was raised there, but he can't go back there because now his lifestyle is like ours, and he doesn't want to go back to that. So it's educated him, you know, just to see a different type of way men and women live. In some countries, the women go outside and they're executed if they leave the house. Like it's horrible. It's like, um,
no,
I was gonna
no.
ask you one thing.
Yeah.
If if Gabby, if she could tell you one thing, what, and she sees that you're doing all of this, what do you think that she would say to you? Like, what would her phrase be? Or I always
Her
wonder, like,
phrase,
because you say you
um,
get signs from her, so
all the time, all the time. First of all, I always hear her saying, "Mom, stop, I'm fine," because I'm always like, I go into those moments where I think about what happened and I'm like so angry and
Oh,
I get upset at myself and like feel guilt. And I hear her like basically yelling at me, like, Mom, stop.
mhm.
She would totally say that to me, like, stop, you're fine. Like, I'm fine. But I think she would, after seeing all this, I think she would say something like, you're a badass or something like that.
Yeah.
Just like this is so badass, because she was a tough girl. Like she looked so he like on video, but she would stick up for anyone that she thought was being wronged. She would stick up for herself and she could get loud. Like she didn't care.
Mhm.
She would lose her temper if she thought that somebody was hurting her or her family or, she would speak. So the fact that this happened to her, just like you said, you were tough and you would have never expected. That's what's crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think she's just out. Did you hear this story? I was on 2020. We were getting interviewed and I stopped and I said, "Oh, just so you guys know, I said, Gabby speaks through electronics, so you
Yeah.
might get some glitches." While I was saying that, their headphones were scratching and then their lights flickered. They didn't tell me
No.
till after the interview, like, you're not going to believe what happened. And I was like, and that was the only time it happened the whole time.
Wow.
And I was like, I told you.
Yeah, I picked up on Jib saying something too about, she's always messing with stuff. So I think you've said that
Mhm.
before though. Like, does she like, is it when there's a lot of energy around or is it when you're quiet and like, do you ever sit in your house and be like, oh, there's Gabby?
It's
Like,
It's very random. We were at, I don't know if you've seen him. He's trying to become more, my friend Nick, with Our Dead Dads podcast.
mhm.
He's been trying to like get more. So we were guests on his show and we went to his house because he lives not far from us. And we were having dinner. His wife cooked us this lovely dinner and we did the interview. We were sitting down having dinner, talking about random stuff. And then all of a sudden I was talking about Gabby and I was like, I said something about Gabby. It had nothing to do with electronics, but all of a sudden his lights flickered and then the whole house lost electricity. And we're sitting there and he's like, "Oh my God." And then we walked outside and like
Wow.
three houses lost electricity on his block, just at the end of his block. Like three, they were in a cul-de-sac. And I'm like, "What the hell?" And like 5 or 6 seconds later, they came back on. And
That's weird.
I was like, that was intense. And I was like, literally, I don't remember what I said, and I wish I did because it was something. I said
God.
something about Gabby, and then when the lights went out, he goes, "Wow, that really was Gabby, wasn't it?" I was like, "Oh my
Wow.
God, it was just so crazy." Like, there's been times when it's
That's,
been pretty intense.
oh, I love that.
I've told this story before, but the Sunday that we reported her missing that Saturday, that
Mhm.
Sunday, my TV in the living room, the volume shot up to 100 and we could not turn it down. We had to unplug the TV. And I look back and I'm like, that was Gabby trying to get our attention. Like she's like, "Hello, like
Oh my
come find
God.
me. I'm here." Like it was just
Wow.
crazy. Like, yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy. And then the orb in the photo. What do you think
Yeah.
about the orb?
I know I had a lot of people messaging me. My mom's reached out. She's like, that's wild. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, Mom, I'm like, to people, I'm like, you can't deny that. Like, and how it's right in the
It's
center.
so crazy. It is not sun glare. It is not a dust particle.
No.
You could
Some
see
people
her
I see are
face.
like pointing out that you could see her face on one of the shirts or something. And I
Yeah.
looked at,
So if you look, there's the orb, and then right outside of the orb, right on Jackson's shoulder, you can
mhm,
see her face. Like
mhm.
it's
I love
crazy.
that though. Like,
It's crazy. I'm
no,
like,
I mean,
and
that,
Rose was like, that's like exactly where she'd be standing, and like if she was actually there, like she'd
yeah.
be in between Jackson and TJ, and then me, and I'd be there. Like she was
Mhm.
like, that was the spot that she'd be standing. I was like, wow.
Like, I guess, like, I had like, how are your kids with all of this media attention? And like, do they talk about stuff? Do they do any kind of, or they just kind of shut down and they don't want anything to
Yeah,
do with it?
they shut down.
Oh, I
They
mean, they're
don't want
young,
it to do,
so.
but it's fine. So TJ loves CrimeCon. He comes and he does the booth, and he does such a good job.
Oh,
That's like the only thing he does with
oh,
us. I don't ever want to force them to do it. They might
yeah.
never even get into this world, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Um, I think they miss their sister and they're
Oh,
confused and they're in therapy. So
yeah.
yeah.
I just wondered how, because you have, how many do you have? You have two daughters or one?
I have two girls and a boy, and then Joe and Tara have two boys. So Gabby was the oldest of six.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I popped out four kids.
God bless you. I couldn't. Mm-mm. I
Yeah.
have four brothers, so that was enough for me. Yeah, I don't, again, I don't want to on camera or anything. Maybe another
Yeah, I'm gonna
time.
stop recording so we
Yeah,
can